All right, now we're going to look at the pattern that we put in and how to make it appropriate for us. Okay, so this exercise clearly, clearly our parameters are different, right? So I even increased the numbers to 20 and 14, and it's really still not all that tight. It's not tight enough. One of the things that I want to do is increase the size of the circles, but bear in mind that I need to, let me look at the top couple ones here. I need to make sure that my circles, when they get larger, let's say 3-4 inches larger in radius, that they're not going to go outside of the outer boundary of my surface. Otherwise, it won't cut, it'll give me errors, and it might crash, especially on these computers. So here's the key. And this is something that you're going to need to keep in mind as you progress in your knowledge with Grasshopper. Be aware of the connections and relationships in terms of sizes, right? So the proportions of things. So think back to the beginning of our exercise. What did we do in order to make this circle exist inside of the surface? Anyone? What did... That's right, we offset the surface, right? We took the surface, we made it smaller, then we referenced the subdivision to the smaller surface. So when you look back here, right, this exercise right here is offsetting that surface. So all we have to do is make sure that the size of the offset is always bigger than the size of the radius. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So how can we do that to make sure it always is, no matter how much I change it? No ideas?
Limit.
Huh?
Limit.
You could limit it, yeah. What else? What else can we do so that we're sort of unlimited? Sort of. We're doing parametrics here, guys. So we can tie the offset directly to... Did you have something?
Well, like, put nodes to make sure that one number is always less than the other number.
Yes. Thank you. Very good. So, but I'm going to reverse it. Not less than, but more than. So essentially, we can change the radius of our circle, and then we just take the radius of our circle and add a minimum perimeter to it, or a static perimeter to it, that it will never be that close to the edge, or any closer than that amount to the edge. And it looks like this. If right now, and I got to pull this all the way back, actually what I'm going to do is yank this down a little bit. This is my radius. If I take my radius plus 1 or plus a ½ inch, then I can plug that into here. It's really all that, it's just that simple. So let's see, what do I have? I made it a negative. All right, so I'm going to go to math and operators and addition, and I'm going to plug in 0.5 plus a static 0.5. So let me pull this back here so you can see what's going on. So now this is the slider for the offset. Rather than using the slider for the offset, I can replace that with my slider and plus the perimeter. So I'll plug that in instead, and it'll take a moment for it to recalculate. Okay, so there we go. That's what it did. None of my circles are any closer than 0.5 to the edge. So now here's the real key. When I change my radius, where is my radius? Oh, that's right, it's back here. As I change my radius, that circle center point is going to move. So if I go from 0.55 inches, so a ½ inch essentially, to say 2 inches. Oops. It's going to completely recalibrate the spacing of all of these circles in order to make sure it still fits and is still a ½ an inch from the perimeter. There you go. Now they're much bigger. So I'm going to calibrate it a little bit further even. I'm going to reduce the number of subdivisions in the width and in the height so that I can increase the radius even more. So back here I've got 14 subdivisions in the V direction, I believe. So I'll reduce that by half to 7. And then I'm going to increase the radius even more. So I need to change the maximum value. I'm just going to bump up the maximum value to even 8 for now. I'm not going to go up that high, but that's the maximum now for my slider. And I'll change this number to, say, 3. I'll try that one out. A little too high, so I'll go back down to 2.5. Okay. So what we're doing here, guys, is like super exaggerated. When you do a perforation on a panel for your design assignments, it's not going to be this big, usually. It's usually going to be something very tiny that gives kind of an illusionary effect if you're standing far away or very close. But the reason I'm making it this big is so that we can really understand the logic and sequencing for how we're going to do dynamic patterns that will, you know, assist in more dynamic designs later on. Okay. So I know I didn't do much. I just kind of changed these right here. But you probably have some questions. I'll probably have to come around and troubleshoot. So what questions do you have now? All right, I'll come around and help out if there are any questions at your desk.